all, I would like to welcome you to Greece. You've been in Greece for the last 3 days as part of a delegation of members of the European Parliament to bring solidarity to the struggling Greek workers. What did this mean in practice? What did you do in Greece?
We spent yesterday, as part of the official GUI NGL, the left group and the Parliament delegation, we met with the workers from the social housing, which they're closing down. We met with the steel workers. We met with the MPs from KKE, the MPs from Syriza. So that was really the official programme. But then as well as that, with the conference in Jikinima, we had visited the workers occupying the Ministry of Health. Today we met with the newspaper being published by the workers. We're in the courthouse with the newspapers. We met with workers in the Ministry of Labour. So really from talking to workers in a number of different struggles, get a real picture of the situation on the ground in Greece and bring active solidarity.
And what is your impression from what you saw?
My impression is that when people say about Greece that the Troika is really destroying society, what they're doing is imposing brutality, is that people are not exaggerating. It is extreme here, the levels to which it is going. The second memorandum represents a further attack on people's just basic lives. I mean, with the social housing, the fact that they're just removing social housing, a very basic social infrastructure, they're just going to abolish it. The attack on the workers in the newspaper, the attack on the basic, what we met with the workers in the mental institutions, psychiatric institutions. You have the devastation of the budget, cut by 55%, and it's a really, really savage, disgusting attack on the most vulnerable sections of the population. And then the other side is that there is struggle. People are fighting back. It obviously isn't the start of a struggle, and you can see that people are tired because there's been quite a period of struggle. But there is a real anger, a hatred for the government, a hatred for the Troika, and a generalisation to the degree that in each of the struggles we met, nobody thought it was just about their struggle. They all saw the need for the struggle to be generalised. And also the points about European solidarity, the points about workers in Ireland, Portugal, Spain, Italy facing the same problems. They got a very good response from the workers. I think there's an understanding of the European nature of the crisis.
Today you spent quite a few hours with the workers from Eleftherotekia, the paper which is under occupation. You met them outside the court, you went together with them inside the courtroom. The verdict of the trial was positive for the workers, and then you visited the workers in the workplace. What is the significance of this struggle in your opinion, not in relation to Greece, but maybe in a wider sense?
I think it's very significant, and I think if news of it can be spread across Europe, it will have a real resonance with people. And so it's a struggle of private sector workers against not getting paid, and then against being laid off, and people looking for the money they are owed in wages and for the work to continue. But it's more than that, because the workers have decided to reduce the paper, which is extremely significant. They see the importance of a paper to express people's anger about the Troika, to express what's happening in society, and the fact that the workers have taken control of the newspaper. So they produced one newspaper last week, and apparently on that day it was the biggest selling, biggest circulation newspaper, which shows the support and solidarity in society for that struggle, and also people's thirst for that sort of news, that sort of newspaper. And the fact that they won the court case today, and the newspaper will come out tomorrow, again, it's very significant. And you have very good, a lot of the people we've met have been quite tired, they've been through difficult struggles, and they continue to be difficult struggles. But certainly today, there was a very good mood and morale of the workers in the newspaper, because they have a victory, because they'll bring out a newspaper. And it does, it points the way forward, it shows the power of workers, it shows that the newspapers are produced by the workers, not the bosses.
Let's say a few things about Ireland. There's a lot of propaganda, both by the Troika, but also by the government and the ruling class in Greece, that the Irish are doing well, but the Greeks are not doing well, and therefore they have to pay more heavily. They are lazy, etc., etc. What is the real situation in Ireland?
Yeah, it suits the Irish government and it suits the Troika to really massage the figures and to lie, to create the impression that everything is working in Ireland. There'll be no need for a second bailout, because it makes the Irish government look good, and it means that the Troika can use Ireland as a stick to beat the Greek people with, the Portuguese people with. But the reality is very, very different. The economy is in a collapse. It continues to decline, the domestic economy, despite the figures that they produce, which are based on exports from multinationals that have little impact on the rest of the economy. So consumption declines, domestic investment declines, and the austerity policies make the whole situation worse. And the conditions facing ordinary people are very bad. They're not as bad as what happened in Greece now, but they attack private sector workers, public sector workers. They slash wages by up to 20%. You have mass unemployment in society, 500,000 people claiming some form of social welfare benefits. You have over 1,000 young people every single week leaving the country, going to Australia or Canada to get work because there's no jobs. And you have a massive anger in society. People are not happy with what is happening. There hasn't been a lot of industrial struggle or very significant protests for the last year and a half because of the massive sellout of the trade union leaders and a feeling of powerlessness that has developed as a result. But that changes now because there's a new government. People see this government can no longer blame the old government. This government brings in its own budget. And so there's the beginnings of a fight back, and in particular, it seems that is centering around the question of the household tax, where this is a tax on every household, €100 for every household, regardless of income, regardless of the size of their property, just instead of poll tax. And so we have launched with others a massive campaign of non-payment. And so far, it started on the 1st of January, and people have until the 31st of March to pay the tax. And so far, only 7% of people have paid the tax. So there is mass non-payment in reality. There's huge meetings of protest, thousands of people turning up in small towns to express their opposition.
I want to ask you about the way working people in the rest of Europe, in Ireland specifically, but more generally in Europe, view the developments in Greece and the struggles of the Greek working class.
Yeah, I think across Europe, at the start, the propaganda campaign, the racist campaign against the Greek people had a certain impact in society. Not generally, not in the sense that everybody hated the Greeks or anything like that, but that it created a sense that, well, maybe there is too much of a welfare state in Greece, maybe people don't work very hard. Things that simply aren't true, factually. But I think now it's moved to a different stage, because people just see really the barbarity that is being imposed, and even the media is forced to report about people giving up their children because they can't afford to feed them, about really the signs of social devastation in Greece. And so there's a feeling of horror about what's happening in Greece, a feeling that we don't want that to happen in our country, which can be either an impetus to struggle, or also an impetus to have fear and not to engage in struggle. It can be used in both ways. And there's I think the whole of Europe, but in particular the so-called PIGS countries, is looking to Europe, is looking to Greece, is looking to the struggle, is interested in the struggle. For the most advanced layers, to take inspiration from the struggle, I think what the Greeks do in every household tax meeting we have, someone will say, we have to do it like the Greeks do. We have to get out on the streets, we have to have a general strike. And so for a lot of people, it serves as an inspiration.
The Troika and the Greek government and the Greek ruling class, of course, say there is no other alternative policy than the one which is being applied. What's the response of the Socialist Party to that?
There's no other alternative policy apart from the one that's being applied if what you're interested in is protecting the interests of the speculators, the bondholders, the bankers, the people who caused this crisis. That's the policy they're pursuing. There is a fundamentally different policy that is about putting the interests of working class people first, ordinary people in society, and that is a real practical alternative, which means refusing to pay the debt, that is non-error debt. It means nationalising the key sections of the economy under democratic workers' control. It means nationalising the banks. and it means implementing socialist policies that are in the interests of ordinary people. And that, I mean, that can't be done just simply in one country. I mean, it can start in one country, but what is crucial in all of this is developing a European-wide struggle against the austerity, against the Troika, to bring down the governments, but also to fight for an alternative socialist policy.
So, to end this interview, how would you see these perspectives, and what would be, let's say, a message that you would like to send to people who watch this interview?
I think the perspective for the capitalists in Europe is very worrying. I think they're very, very scared about developments in Greece because they can lose control of the situation. That's what's potentially posed. I think there is an extremely important task in front of the left. The left has to provide a real solution to ordinary people. It has to make it real. It has to be active. It has to unite around certain issues of struggle. If the left can do that, then there's a positive perspective about the potential to change society. The message I would give to people is to continue to struggle, to try to unify the struggles that exist, to try to develop more struggles that exist, and to develop, to generalise the struggles into a general struggle against austerity, against Troika, against the government, and also to try to, that across Europe, we have a task here. If we allow the Commission and the ECB and the capitalist classes in Europe to pick us off one by one, to take the Greeks, then to take the Portuguese, then to take the Irish, then we're finished. We need to build real active solidarity, we need to build active protests together across Europe, and we need to try to build towards generalised strike action, a 24-hour strike across Europe against austerity.
We would say that we agree that this is the most important task in the next period. It's been very good to have you with us, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Andros, and thank you to the Greek Conference.